tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Good morning to all of our High at 9 News fam out there and all of our correspondents and everyone tuning in today. It's Friday, October 28th, 2022, which is International Animation Day, National First Responders Day, National Internal Medicine Day, and National Chocolate Day. We are also thankful that you're tuning in with us today and every morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast, and making sure to get high at 9 with us. We have correspondents from around the country and allow for an open forum if you want to participate. Do us a solid and hit that subscribe button and share on your favorite social media platform and tell a friend about something you learned on the news today. We're live every Monday through Friday on YouTube and Twitch and audio only on Clubhouse. If you're on Clubhouse, you can raise your hand if you have a brief comment or question on the story that we've presented. And please keep the banter going on YouTube chat box because we really love it. We have a great show for you all today, and we'll be getting into some very important topics from around the globe. But we definitely want to get started with one of our best and most favorite storytellers every single day, Rico Lamitte. Rico Lamitte is the dope dad on the street. He's spending day in and day out trying to make sure that everybody around the globe knows that cannabis and being a dad are two very fucking cool things that you can do together. Rico, what do you have for us today?
Thank you for yet another excellent intro, Nicole, and happy Friday, everybody out there. My story today is from People Magazine by Glenn Garner. Brittany Griner supporters staged cannabis smokeout outside Russian embassy after sentence upheld. It's been a rough week of news for Brittany Griner after a Russian court decided Tuesday they'd continue saving the children by upholding their 9-year prison sentence for allegedly smuggling and intending to distribute 2 near half-empty Delta 8 carts. Sure, 9 years sounds crazy on the surface, but many have continued to serve similar sentences here in America for possession of indistinguishable amounts. Griner's Russian detention saga was initially criticized for its slowness to become a front-page story, but mainstream media coverage has definitely expanded over a year, and as a result, public perception and interpretation of the political prisoner's high-profile case has evolved into something very different to everybody, perhaps even an opportunity for some to draw attention to their own agendas, good or bad. Take D.C. marijuana justice. The group's been busy this week after helping to organize Monday's protest at the White House that failed to produce the arrest of our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey. But they might have made up for the poor ratings generated by Steve D'Angelo-led protests with last night's second gathering outside the Russian embassy, where they held a smokeout. Demonstration kicked off at 4:20 p.m. Eastern after a public call to arms for participants on Twitter reading, "If you have used vape cartridges, bring them." Protesters in attendance carried a 51-foot inflatable joint that read "Free Brittany Griner and the Russians from Putin" in Russian on one side and "Free 420 prisoners" in English on the other. DCMJ co-founder Adam Edinger told the Washington Post, "Just as it's unacceptable for Americans to sit behind bars for simple possession of cannabis, it's absolutely unacceptable for an American sitting in a Russian gulag. We feel compelled to protest the Russian Federation and President Putin, who's clearly using an American citizen as a pawn in his war against Ukraine." While I do agree with Edinger's words here, I don't think silly spectacles like smoking a giant joint in public will have any impact one way or another on negotiation terms of Griner's release between Russia and America. To me, it seems more like a half-baked excuse for an afternoon sesh with the homies and an opportunity to use the case to draw media attention to MJDC. I don't know. Maybe tossing a giant can of tomato soup on and permanently staining the White House's signature paint job would have been a more effective tactic. In my eyes, a more respectful or sympathetic demonstration would have involved Griner's family and friends in speaking out about the lack of medical access in our country and abroad. Griner does maintain bringing the vapes to Russia was an accident, and she was using them as prescribed pain medicine after all. Either way, I'm still hoping BG comes home safely and soon as possible, and we get to hear the story of what exactly went down in her words. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, and love to hear what the rest of you guys think about this one.
Are you telling me, Rico, that
she?
Rico, you're telling me that she's saying that she was prescribed these Delta 8 vape carts?
She had a doctor's note. She had a doctor's prescription that was admitted into the trial.
That's what she's been saying. This is not a new news. I hate a smoke out. I think they're stupid. I think they accomplish nothing. I agree with you totally, Rico, and I rarely do, that using her family or someone to actually come out and speak on her behalf or something would have been much more effective. Adam loves to do these stupid stunts with the giant blunts and his 45-foot, roll-up joints, and they're awful. No one takes us seriously, right. And so then nothing gets done.
We are all talking about it, and it is the lead-off story, so it is getting some traction and visibility.
It's getting traction with us. It's not going to get traction with anyone important.
Let me tell you something. This is definitely not swaying Putin at all to release Britney in any way. If anything, it's only going to make Putin keep her locked up for longer because he sees that he's pissing off Americans. So therefore, it's fucking filling his fucking ego to fucking do it more.
I feel very similar about.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I feel very similar about this interaction that I do. Like I was talking the other day, where we have a lot of legends in their own way, that once they get up on the microphone, I'm like, holy shit, this isn't what we're supposed to be doing anymore. Right. I feel similarly about the smokeouts, where I'm like, 30 years ago, there might have been some sort of value to being like, see, we're not, fighting and breaking shit down. We've moved past that. We're past that reality. It's like when people get on the microphone when we're having a zoning conversation and they're like, medical marijuana is needed. And I'm like, yeah, we know that. We're just trying to figure out what the zone is going to be. Like, I feel like they're missing the mark, right? So like showing up with your used vape pens, I have zero concept as to, at first I thought they were doing this in Russia. And I was like, no.
That's why I was like, I'm even covering this shit. I was like, yo, they're doing this shit in Russia. And I was like, this is in DC, and it's the same motherfuckers that did this shit online.
Yeah, this is a total publicity stunt for DCMJ. This is not going to do anything. This just got us all talking about it and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop.
But Matt's right about Matthew's right about the fact that there's a conversation happening, right? So like the conversation, media is definitely traction is still being gained in some situations, but what kind of traction is the variable here? And I think it's the negative. I think it's burning rubber in the wrong direction.
This is not helping the situation at all whatsoever.
Yeah,
if you want to get traction with a smoke out, you need to do it with numbers. You can't do it with your 6 friends.
And not to mention, don't dress up like you're going to the clown show either when you're going to a smoke out. Okay, the Smurf hats, the fucking dumb hippie look, fucking drop the shit. Okay, if you want to be respected,
especially in DC,
dress up and fucking look the look and walk the walk and play the part. Don't come to the fucking clown show. It's not circus.
See, I disagree a little bit with that, Jason. I actually do think like crazy shit will draw attention. So I'm a little bit.
It's the wrong attention, Rico. It's the wrong attention.
Hold on. But that is the hook. It does not have to be the substance of what you're doing.
But it becomes a substance. It becomes a substance because that's the only thing that the lawmakers talk about is the fact that these people look fucking like a sideshow Bob's.
Whether it has to or not is one.
Let's say you bring the giant inflatable joint out there, and as soon as you get the media there, you deflate that motherfucker.
Yeah,
and
the media
doesn't
care about that sort of thing.
Directly for it,
No, I mean, and just look at the good old pink pussy hats that the Women's March did a couple years ago. How much hype they got over that? I would have cared if they cared a lot more about what the women were talking about than their stupid hats on their heads.
Exactly.
I think it was a great idea, but I just think it was poor execution in delivering the message that needed to be.
Safita, you've been to your share of protests. What do you think of this? Adam was out there protesting at the Russian embassy for Britney Griner, and I say it's futile. Rico says go for it.
I say I'm all about like big flashy hooks to bring people in, but then you hit them with the truth. You hit them with the great message after that.
This is the wrong shiny hook, is what I'm telling you. It's the wrong lure.
I agree. I agree with both points on this. Matthew, you're right. We shouldn't show up looking exactly like them and trying to, shape shift our way into some fucking exact world. But at the same time, we and we talk about lobbyists all the time. That's what we need. We need those people that do look just like them, right? Like, it's not that we don't need them, but here's the reality is some of us need to convert. Right. Some of us need to convert into those suits. Some of us need to Jason Beck on that ass. Right. Like he used to dress like a fucking gangster. I'm going to be real honest with he used to dress like a fucking gangster and like brands on his shirt, like the whole thing. He wears a fucking collared shirt almost every day.
Hold on. A gangster? I think there's like racial undertones. I know you don't mean them. I know you personally, Nicole, don't mean them, but that's not dressed like a gangster. A gangster.
I'm talking about real gangster shit, and I'm not going to go into the full depths of what.
We're not going to go into all that as my different uniforms in the days,
because it's not necessarily just attire. But with that said, now he is a square in the appearance and the way that he shows up and he looks just like the Washington lobbyists. I do know that some of them still kind of dress like gangsters when they storm Capitol buildings, and that's what I mean by dress. Those are all the Democrats. I don't actually mean the attire. Rico.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was
accessories. I appreciate that, but that's not what I meant. It's not. It's accessories. It's accessories, Rico. So please don't try to turn it into a racial thing. I'm definitely not having that conversation.
Oh boy. Well, you know what? I think that was a fantastic story. Thank you so much. If you want to
make it that way.
Thank you so much for that, Rico. It's not where we're going. Because coming up next, she's a cannabis business consultant, an industry veteran, a bullshit buster, and a self-proclaimed general overall data bitch, boasting over 13 years in the regulated market, but with deep roots in the legacy industry as well. So much roots in the legacy industry that she did some crime for a cannabis crime. It is none other than the Nicole West.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for that story, Jason, or Rico. Definitely an interesting one to be talking about. Up next, my story today is about the unusual alliance of opponents that are jeopardizing the Arkansas marijuana legalization measures, which is super interesting to see the people that are coming from both sides of this. But it's also something that I think makes a ton of sense because the way that the bill has been set up, it is obviously a fix. So a motley coalition of religious leaders, pro-Trump politicians, and donors, as well as progressive cannabis advocates, are opposing a uniquely pro-law enforcement legalization measure in Arkansas that would give existing medical marijuana operators the first crack at new adult use market. This rare alliance in Arkansas morality-driven politics is leading the observers to predict that the effort to create would be the first adult use cannabis market in the deep red conservative southern state, but it might fail. That would be a welcome news for pro-cannabis critics who say that the measure gives the state's existing medical marijuana industry, which the legalization campaign chief bankroller, early and unfair dominance to the future adult use market projected to exceed $500 million in sales within 3 years. Through issue 4, although issue 4 would legalize cannabis for adults 21 and older, the measure bucks social justice centered trends. Instead of expunging past cannabis crimes, the measure's backers tout how much tax money would be funneled into the police department. And it also lacks the social equity provision intended to ensure people of color and without access to capital can participate in legal cannabis space. It would also reward the industry backers who are pouring millions of dollars behind the measure with limits on how many licenses can exist. All of this is fueling the accusation from pro-cannabis critics that the measure is deliberately crafted to guarantee existing MMJ players a lion's share of the adult use market, which MJ Biz Daily projects could generate as much as $400 million in sales in the first year, despite cannabis usage rates much lower in the national average. Their voices added to the conservative fears over youth use and drugged driving, amplified by a $1 million donation from the prominent right-wing billionaire in 2022 election Denaire helps explain how flagging support in recent polls is leading to observers to predict Arkansas will preserve their status quo. I suspect this particular measure will be defeated, says Karen Sebold, an assistant professor of politics and science at the University of Arkansas. There's a limit on licenses and plants. Should issue 4 pass, the state constitution would be amended to allow adults 21 and over to possess up to an ounce of cannabis, though there would be no allowance for home growing at all. Recreational sales could begin as early as March 8th, 2023, at the state's existing 40 licensed medical marijuana dispensaries. Sales would be subject to a 16% sales tax, much lower than the tax rates in existing adult use states as California, Colorado, and Washington continue to develop. MMJ card holders would still be able to purchase medical cannabis tax-free, and each existing MMJ dispensary would receive an additional adult use sales license for a total of 80 initial sales licenses doled out to current retailers. Another 40 retail licenses would be awarded to new entrants via the lottery no later than July 2023. An existing residency requirement would be repealed, thus opening the industry to multi-state operators mostly shut out of the original state's medical marijuana market due to the residency requirements. The state's existing 8 licensed cultivators would also get first dibs at supplying the adult use market, and a maximum of 12 new cultivation licenses would be issued, also via lottery, no later than November of 2023. But these so-called tier 2 licenses would be capped out at no more than 250 plants. By contrast, the state's original 8 cultivators would not be subject to the same plant count. Initiative backers say that the measure could raise as much as $460 million in tax revenue over the next 5 years. They are really set on $400 to $500 million, with 10% of that dedicated to research and law enforcement. Although the measure's pro-police component in front of the center of the campaign and ads, it is very important that people see how much money of this is actually going into law enforcement. You can vote to support our law enforcement by voting our issue for this election. A television ad that was released in August proclaims, a vote for issue 4 is a vote for supporting the police. Wow, there's not a better way to keep people that like weed to fucking not vote for something is that sentence. So there's never going to be a perfect fit. Issue 4 is tailored to the political realities of Arkansas, says Eddie Armstrong, a former Arkansas state legislator serving the campaign chair of Responsible Growing Arkansas, the organization behind this measure. These include satisfying a conservative voting base concerned about public safety, as well as officials that are leery about the laissez-faire approach to cannabis seen next door in Oklahoma. There's never a perfect fit, Armstrong says, and he told MJ Biz Daily on a phone interview, it wasn't a perfect fit in Cali, it wasn't a perfect fit in Colorado, and it won't be a perfect fit here. I think Arkansas took a little bit of each one and said, how do we make this work? As for what's missing, legal counsel told organizers that ambitious criminal justice reform and social equity measures would not survive a court challenge, Armstrong says. As it is, the backers had to go to state Supreme Court just to stay on the ballot with what they had. And pre-campaign polling emphasizes the need to address voters' public safety fears and attempt to neutralize the opponent's messaging over drugged driving and youth driving. So it's really important to understand that there is only support from the industry on this, not really any support on activists. Through the end of September, supporters raised $4.5 million, with most of the funding coming directly from the medical cannabis industry that already exists, according to the most recent campaign financed data available. Supporters have spent $3.9 million, mostly on television advertisement, and I am so curious to see how this actually shakes out in Arkansas. I am not surprised whatsoever. The original licensing process, I mean, the fix was in since day one. So the idea that it would be any different on their adult use market is kind of crazy. It looks very similar in Arkansas to the way that, Florida kind of already had an idea of who was going to get a license when they wrote the laws. So I have a feeling that this might actually pass, but we'll see. And I'm curious if anybody does any work in Arkansas to hear what they have to say, and anybody that has any experience out there. So yeah, I'm Nicole West, getting high at 9 with y'all.
Arkansas. I mean, do we really expect a lot of industry to get behind this? I mean, other than activists in Arkansas?
They should, but it probably won't happen.
I mean, the reason I say this is it's a very big prohibition state. I mean, Tom Cotton is probably one of the biggest prohibitionists in the Senate, and that's his home state. So I'm just wondering if the support is being stymied by the higher ups.
I think support is probably being stymied by lack of money. If like Gretchen always says, you need money to get behind lobbying. You need money to get behind these these protests and everything, you need money to get down there. I don't think there's a lot of money behind people going out to support a lot of these southern states, and they're just going to get fucked over by deals like this.
There's also not a lot of, people that have really assembled together in the like activism side in a lot of the southern states, just based on fear. Obviously, they've been, so repressed for so long. So like, even if it was just not just the money thing, just like humans feeling comfortable vocalizing their fucking opinions without the fear of reprisals on like a human level, whether it be, criminal, no, not as big, like that, definitely a big deal. People are afraid of that still. But I mean, just like afraid of being fucking beaten, afraid of
getting arrested.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, like I said,
exactly why cancel culture doesn't work.
It's nothing to do with cancel culture right
this
there.
has nothing to do with cancel culture.
I think this just has to do kind of, with what like Rico was saying, the South has been very slow to come on board. I mean, that just the values down there and the way that these people have been looking at cannabis for years. I don't think that the South is, jumping up and down to get on board when it comes to the cannabis game. And so other folks who are opposed to it are going to get together and they're going to be definitely more organized. I mean, how often do you hear about, some great cannabis movement coming out of Arkansas or Mississippi? I mean, everyone's always amazed. They're like, holy shit, Mississippi just tried to legalize, and like no one is paying attention. Even regular folks who are in the game working on the lobbying side, Salem's even pissed off. But no,
I think the one state, me and my homeboys from Texas always get into it. Like I believe Texas is more southwest than south, but I think the one southern state that will buck that trend is probably Texas. I think Texas actually does have a lot of advocates down there that are there, and a lot of people that are not afraid, like the Count of Saint Germain said, to let their freak flag fly and to speak out, in civil disobedience style to a lot of these oppressors too. I think Texas,
I don't know what Texas is waiting for then, Rico, if you think they have this great crowd to assemble and push legalization.
He's living in a fantasy world too.
No, it's interesting. I'm looking at the only state that has above 60% Christian in the whole state that has legalized cannabis at all is Oklahoma. It's literally everything above 60%. That's the ones that are left without regulations. Oklahoma's the only one. It's interesting. Super interesting. Like I think the religious piece of it, I think is it. If you look at the voting block and what's actually happening, and then you look at this percentage, it's kind of almost parallel.
I mean, if you look at cannabis in Utah, it only happened because the Mormon Church got on board and pushed what they wanted. If the Mormon Church had said no, it's not happening, it would not have happened in Utah. You
gotta get the evangelists on board with. You gotta get the church folks on board in those red states.
Yeah, they're 57% Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints in Utah. It's like at the bottom of the Christian list, and I didn't realize, I wasn't looking at it, but I looked down. But yeah, the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints got behind it, so here we are.
Mm-hmm. And Saint Germain, your comment right there, spot on.
Yeah, Christianity was originally a mushroom cult that was hijacked by the Roman Empire for social control.
Immortality key. Yes, it was.
And it keeps happening. And it's up to us to displace the institutionalized white supremacy and bad information aimed at pagans and non-believers, and replace that with real information grounded on messages from the earth, the sacred plant and fungal teachers.
What was the name of the?
I'm dropping book links. I'm dropping book links in the chat for anybody who's interested.
Let them know about the immortality key. There's actually anthropology and science behind this shit now.
And the sacred mushroom and the cross.
Yeah, Christianity, the roots of Christianity and how it was spread in the Roman Empire was straight up mushrooms and witches and orgies.
Hallelujah. Abolish money, orgies in the streets.
Yeah. Talking about orgies, he's the longest continuously operating retailer in the industry.
Oh yeah, it's Friday night.
Also known in respective circles as Gucci Blanco, White Gucci, Kaiser Brose, and the highest Republican. And if you're in West Hollywood, you can also call him El Presidente. Coming to the stage next, and always smoking on the best weed in the world, we've got Jason Beck. What you got for us, my man?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, Rico. Happy Friday, everybody. We finally made it. It's almost the weekend. But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of, politics makes the strangest bedfellows, and there's a lot of that going on in my story coming out of Missouri, because the opposition to Missouri marijuana amendment is creating strange political bedfellows. That's right. The Missouri Baptist Convention and pro-choice Missouri don't often find themselves on the same team. Same for the Missouri NAACP and the Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys. But this year is part of an ideology scattershot constellation of organizations and elected officials that have come out of the woodwork in recent weeks to urge Missourians to reject a marijuana legalization proposal appearing on the November 8th ballot as Amendment 3. After facing little public resistance for months, Amendment 3 is suddenly under assault, seemingly from all sides, leaving it fending and fierce, and at times contradictory, as well as with criticism. The Missouri Catholic Conference, Missouri Sheriffs United, the Missouri Hospital Association, and the Missouri Farm Bureau have each announced opposition to the proposal this month. The latest to join the fray is Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, a Republican who told KDSK-TV this week that the 39-page amendment is, in quotes, way too much to put into the Constitution. He also hinted at allegations of corruption that have dragged the medical marijuana industry in Missouri almost from the moment voters created the medical cannabis program back in 2018. In a quote, he says, "It's my understanding that there are at least serious allegations that the people behind the amendment wrote this amendment as a way to enrich themselves," he said. Asked if he find those allegations credible, Ashcroft said, "They're credible doesn't mean they're true." Proponents of Amendment 3 have long dismissed accusations of wrongdoing in the medical marijuana industry and argue much of the criticism of the proposal's key plans is being done in bad faith. They remain confident heading toward Election Day. In a quote, "Missouri voters are overwhelmingly in favor of legalizing marijuana, and that's why it's on the ballot this fall," John Payne, campaign manager of Legal Missouri 2022, said in a statement last week, announcing the launch of a digital ad campaign. He says, "We are excited to show Missourians all the ways this could move the state forward in safety, fairness, and a way to help our veterans that has never been there before," he says. Amendment 3 asks voters whether to amend the Missouri Constitution to remove bans on marijuana sales, consumption, and manufacturing for adults over 21 years old, with some caveats, they say. The amendment includes automatic expungement for certain people who have non-violent marijuana-related offenses on their record. I would call that a mass pardon, Gretchen. People who are still incarcerated would have to petition the courts to be released and have their records expunged. The Missouri Democratic Party, for example, refused to endorse the proposal in part because it may negatively impact minorities, people of color, and low-income earning Missourians. Meanwhile, conservative groups are stroking concerns about Amendment 3 by falsely claiming it is an attempt to insert critical race theory into the Constitution by creating a position of chief equity officer in quotation marks. But Ashcroft's concerns about allegations of misconduct in the marijuana industry is a common thread that runs through much of the opposition. Critics argue license caps implemented by the state have benefited connected insiders to the medical marijuana industry, who now stand to reap most of the financial rewards if Missourians vote to legalize adult use. The Missouri House launched an investigation into the licensing process in early 2020, fueled by widespread reports of irregularities in how license applications were scored and allegations that conflicts of interest within the state health department and private companies hired to score applications have been tainted in the process. Denied applicants filed hundreds of appeals, and rumblings of FBI scrutiny in the industry have been persistent. For its part, the campaign in support of Amendment 3 has a coalition of its own, including the Missouri ACLU, the Missouri Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and the Missouri chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, aka Normal Missouri. Organized labor is also lining up behind Amendment 3. Most recently, the Missouri AFL-CIO and the Service Workers International Union Amendment 3 represents justice for the thousands of workers who will have a clearer path to employment once their nonviolent marijuana convictions are expunged, said Rihanna Duria, executive director of SEIU Missouri Kansas State Council. And unlike its opponents, the proponents of Amendment 3 have a robust campaign war chest filled largely by businesses involved in the medical marijuana industry. This month, the industry has chipped in $1.6 million to bankroll the legal Missouri 2022 in this campaign homestretch. Save Our State, a political action committee formed last month to oppose Amendment 3, has not reported any contributions since it has launched. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a whole shitstorm brewing in Missouri, and whatever it is, make sure that your vote is counted and vote before November 8th or on November 8th, whichever way you want this to go on Amendment 3 if you live in Missouri. And this is Jason Beck reporting for the High at 9 News.
Jason, we are going to go ahead and hop to our commercial right away just because we are pressed for time today, but thank you so much for that story. Let's pay some bills.
At True Classic OG, we live by one motto: stay true. We stay true to our legacy cut of True OG that's always fresh, piney, gassy, and delicious. We represent the spirit, hustle, and diversity of our great city of Angels. And we stay true to the spirit of this plant, doing everything in-house to ensure that you get the highest quality and consistency with every batch. And that's what's made us LA's favorite OG. True Classic OG. Stay true, Los Angeles.
The thoughts, opinions, and general shade thrown on the High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers, not those of any other speaker or its followers. The statements made do not constitute legal or accounting advice, and our speakers make no representation regarding the legal status of any substance in a country, territory, or its authorities. The views expressed in this room do not establish fiduciary relationships. Our sponsors do not imply the constitute by the endorsement by us any expression of any opinion whatsoever or any speaker on stage. If you're an easily offended person, the show is probably not for you. Also, happy Friday.
Flying into LAX and you want to taste some of the best weed in the world? Then stop by LAXCC, the closest dispensary to LAX, located at 8332 Lincoln Boulevard and open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Always make LAXCC your first stop when you touch down in LA and score like a winner. And don't forget to tell them I sent you and mention you'd like to get High at 9 for 10% off your full order.
This Pennsylvania native's well known in DC circles for cooking up excellence and baking delicious treats. And unfortunately, this week she did not get arrested for civil disobedience, but she's still our favorite red-headed conservative shit kicker. And coming to the stage next, it's the founder of Panoptic Strategies, our very own Washington insider, Gretchen Gailey. What you got for us today? Are you stretching?
Good afternoon, Rico. This was sort of a headline in the Philadelphia Inquirer, but I found that the press release went a bit more in depth, so that's what I'm going with. The New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission and New Jersey Department of State announced technical assistance program for cannabis entrepreneurs. The New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission has made a recommendation to the Department of the Treasury to fund the Cannabis Training Academy. The program is to be run by the Department of State's Business Action Center to provide technical assistance to entrepreneurs establishing cannabis businesses in New Jersey. The NJCRC's Audit Committee recommended that funds from the Cannabis Regulatory Enforcement Assistance and Marketplace Modernization Fund be allocated to the Business Action Center to establish a new program to provide free educational courses, technical assistance in building business plans, and completing other aspects of license applications and mentorship to cannabis business owners. Commission Vice Chair Sam Delgado, who sits on the Audit Committee, expressed his pleasure with the program that will launch next year. We have emphasized equity and accessibility in the application process, and this program will help ensure aspiring entrepreneurs have the optimal business know-how to give them the best chance for success in the cannabis space. The Cannabis Training Academy will begin the needed training and guidance that will help individuals and assist the budding market stability and success. Secretary of State Tahisha Way said, supporting these new entrepreneurs to be successful is critical to ensure equitable representation of small and diverse cannabis business and owners. This assistance is essential to help people and communities that were targeted during cannabis prohibition to achieve greater equality, access, and participation, and improve their lives, families, and communities. The NJBAC's proposed curriculum includes modules designed to help participants decide if a cannabis business is right for them, and will include business plan development as well as a legacy to legal course. Some program resources will be targeted specifically designated categories, which include social equity businesses, diversely owned businesses, micro businesses, and impact zone businesses. There will be a 10-week accelerator track to take conditional license applicants through the initial application process, and a separate track to help them convert to annual licenses. I could go on a bit further, but it's just people singing the praises of this new program. I would like to bring on one of the folks, Safita Artis Mills, who was president of the United Empowerment Party, who's one of the advocacy groups that was behind promoting this. So often we talk about how safe banking is not enough. We can't just give people licenses and pray that they do well. And so I think New Jersey is doing the right thing and stepping up here and actually giving people plans and trying to help them to build their businesses, especially on the legacy side. So Safita, can you tell me a bit more about the program and just the process that y'all went through to get this done?
Thank you for having me, Gretchen. We were on this with the New Jersey cannabis, myself, Border, DC Scrogger, California. There were several of us to work with the New Jersey. Well, part of the conversation legacy was a license, having a conditional licensee, which we felt was very important because about programs that disproportionately harm this prohibition. Legacy is not. So we were built to where they are getting the license, but to have
Safita, you're breaking up a bit. You're breaking up a bit. How's your signal looking over there? Is it any good?
Pretty good. Can you guys hear me?
Are we on Chrome?
You sound a little bit better.
Yeah, you're breaking up. It could be a signal, or it could be if you're not on Chrome. As your
I should be good there, but I'm fine from here. Hearing me now, or is it still rough?
It's in and
It's
out.
like every other word you're breaking up.
It's still in and out.
We might have a better chance if you turned your audio off, just because it's less frequent.
Off.
It's
Video
less.
off.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, your video off. If you turn your video off, then we would just be able to hear you probably.
Okay. Is that better?
Way better.
Still the same.
Let's try.
So I was saying that past several months from February, the New Jersey CRC to out this program for legacy. Or is it?
Safita, you keep going in and out. It's still not working very well.
Better. Yeah.
Let's see here. Safita, do you want to try jumping onto Clubhouse, Safita? I know you were looking at that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Just
Come on over to Clubhouse, Safita. We'll get you right on up,
please.
Rico, do you want to comment on this?
Yeah.
You're the one who's always jumping up and down all over my head about different social equity programs.
No, I think there's a great activision here, and also as we speak about New Jersey, I saw a lot of stuff coming out about this morning. Is this story actually tied to the Cleveland School of Cannabis and them teaming up with the state? I know they had a big announcement also that they're teaming up with local cannabis educators in New Jersey to push out education. Is this one connected to that too?
That'd be a good question for Safita. I don't see any reference to it though in their releases about the academy.
I love the tenets that are outlined in your article, and I hope that this does work out and it does get pushed forward. That's one thing that we have had a lack of, just unified education for coming from communities of color, especially for getting into.
We have Safita with us. Safita, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
There we go.
There we go.
Yes, there we go.
All right, so much better. So Safita, tell us about the process real quick that you guys went about getting this done.
Yes, so I was saying we spent the past several months since around February working on this with the New Jersey CRC, with myself, Leo Bridgemortar, Redman, DC Scrogger, Tucky Blunt, Anthony from 40 Tons, and Corbin. There were several of us. So it's people not just within the state of New Jersey working on this. There were other people asked to have this conversation with New Jersey CRC. So we felt like there needed to be a program for legacy to legal, because legacy was being left out of the conversation. And there was a lot of input and feedback given to the state in how they were going to do that. And one of the things that we did appreciate about them providing this technical assistance program is not only is it a pathway for legacy to come into the legal space, but there's mentorship, there's training, there's education, which is extremely important because education is lacking in this space. And in order for them to not only get a license, but helping them to become successful and sustain that license so that they can continue building out their business and be able to provide all the things that they've been doing over the years of being in the legacy market into the legal space.
And Safita, I know you guys are heavily working in the New York market as well, trying to push some things. Are you going to try and push the same type of initiative up there?
Absolutely. That is one of the things that we are looking to be able to use as leverage to have that conversation in New York and to provide actionable items for this to be passed or even introduced in New York, whether in the regulations or introducing it as a bill. And the plan is to also take it to other states. So it's not just about getting these policies implemented in one state, since we are looking at, what federal legalization would look like and what interstate commerce is going to look like, and providing uniformity across the U.S. These are the steps that need to be taken. Every state needs to be working together, and every state needs to be learning from one another what to do, what not to do, what mistakes were made, and what best practices to take from each state so that the markets can become sustainable and have an ecosystem that's cohesive within the industry.
Oh, thank you so much, Safita.
Who's teaching the classes that you're talking about, the actual programs, the education programs?
So they are actually looking for people to be coaches and mentors. So they're looking at people from the community. They're looking at people who have been working in the cannabis industry, and even individuals that come from legacy. So it's not just going to be people that are state officials. They're looking for the people from the community. So that link that is now live, I would definitely advise people to go to that link if they are interested in participating in the program as a coach or a trainer, to be able to provide that education and those tools for these individuals.
Safita, thank you so much for joining us today. I agree 100% with all your messaging, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing, drumming up interest and surrounding education more than everything else. This week, another story that came out across the news wires was MCA partnering with the Cannabis Hub for the Seed at the Table initiative. Are you familiar with that? And is this connected to the efforts that you guys are pushing out? Is with the Minority Cannabis Academy and the Cleveland School of Cannabis?
No, I'm not familiar with that just happening, but we are looking to work with different organizations within the cannabis space and different groups so that we can have more discussions and roundtables to be able to start implementing the right programming and introducing policies in the state that's going to address these specific issues, especially education.
Right on.
This is awesome. Thank you so much for Safita for all the work that you're doing within the community, and thank you, Gretchen, for covering this story. But we got to keep it moving. He's a cannabis wizard doing his damnedest to continue the work of the Merry Pranksters and the Brotherhood of Eternal Love, alongside the Hogwarts. Excuse me,
Jason.
Alongside the Hogwarts PhD and Trippin' Balls, this co-host of What's Good, the Cannabis Flower and Hash Review Show, as well as the host of Radio for Free Earth podcast, boasts over 33 years in the game with sales, genetics, cultivations, and of course, the immortal Transylvanian Count himself. It is none other than the Matthew St. Germain.
Good morning, y'all. Thanks for having me. Happy Friday. We're all one human family, and I love you. Now on to my story. It comes courtesy of the Beard Brothers. New iteration of camp program is definitely not epic. The state of California has always been a pioneer in the cannabis industry. They were the first to legalize medical marijuana, and they even legalized adult use in 2016. But the legalization of cannabis has had some unintended consequences. Illegal cannabis sales are still thriving in California. In response, California lawmakers have established a new task force that will be responsible for investigating and prosecuting illegal operations. But many are wondering if this is truly the right solution. It's not. The truth about illegal cannabis grows on public lands is that there are public health hazards and human rights issue. I agree with this. That's the message from Karen Moritzen, a Bureau of Land Management official who spent several years dealing with illegal cannabis farms on government land in California. The drug crop sites are often crude camps with no running water or sewers where laborers live in squalor and use caustic pesticides to kill the animals that might otherwise eat growing plants. The pollution they leave behind is spread into downstream water supplies, and pesticides can spread up through the food chain. Moritzen said 80% of illegal grow sites found on and around BLM properties this year were connected to drug trafficking organizations. Clearly, organized crime and illegal growth is a problem. It hurts workers and the environments. However, the state's solution of funneling money into cop programs modeled after another ineffective task force is a terrible idea that deals with symptoms and not root causes. Since recreational cannabis was legalized in 2016, illegal cannabis farms have been booming. In fact, California's illegal market approaches $8 billion annually, which is nearly double the $5.3 earned by the legal market in 2021. Local government opposition, dry counties, high taxes, and competition from unlicensed businesses are complicating things. California law allows city leaders to shut out licensed cannabis enterprises and ban the sale of marijuana within city limits, which has left many cities with insufficient supply and caused others to turn to unlicensed shops that sell pot in defiance of state law. The result is a perfect storm for an illegal market. Not enough legal sites, very difficult to get approved for cannabis sales. It all together makes the conditions perfect for this thriving legal market. Originally, we had a program called CAMP, the Campaign Against Marijuana Planting. That was California working with the federal government along with local agencies to eradicate grows on public lands. CAMP is now being changed into EPIC, which stands for Eradication and Prevention of Illicit Cannabis. What was formerly a 13-week seasonal program will now transition to a year-round task force focusing on investigating and prosecuting civil and criminal cases related to environmental, economic, and labor impacts from illegal cultivation. The California DOJ says that it doesn't want to focus just on cultivation, which is what CAMP did. They're going to expand their force into funneling more money into police and state agents. Watching you. The government is so focused on catching illegal cannabis growers and distributors that they've lost sight of what's really causing the problem. The reason the market is booming is ridiculous taxes, as well as high barriers to entry, again, in these dry counties, as well as, let's face it, a far better product on the illegal side for the most part. This EPIC program is a serious waste of money that creates more cops instead of lowering barriers to entry for people and working to integrate existing illegal operations into the legal market. The government could lower taxes on businesses so they're more incentivized to operate legally. If they spent less money on cops, they may not even lose money. We know, again, why people turn to the black market. It's cheaper, easier, and in most cases better quality than buying from legal dispensaries. If California wants to stop people from growing their own cannabis illegally, then it needs to address these root issues rather than wasting time and money on an expensive task force that won't solve anything anyway. The illegal cannabis market can be addressed without spending billions of dollars every year on prisons and police departments. This is Matthew St. Germain for High at 9, and I'm looking forward to the storm of input.
I mean, I think Nicole said it all in the chat with the epic fail.
Agreed.
Fail.
Agreed.
I mean, it's not surprising. This is something that I feel like a lot of us were expecting at a certain point. I mean, people like Sean Kiernan and the Weed for Warriors have been like screaming, this is coming, like real Paul Revere shit. But I'm not surprised by this at all. But also, it's about to get fucking real hairy up there.
I wonder, because CAMP was funded by a number of different companies in conjunction with some state grants and whatnot. And I wonder if those same companies, such as like Kraft, Snapple, a lot of the good old American brands that everybody knows and loves and stoners consume, are going to be funding this as well.
Well, he just didn't Newsom just announce that he's going to be dumping a fuck ton of money into this shit?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it all going to be only government funded, or is it going to also be subsidized through corporations
funded by the people?
Well?
Funded by the people who do not want it to be funded with our dollars.
You're muted, Nicole. There you go.
Oh, my bad. Thanks.
There we
Sorry,
go.
guys.
No
Sorry, guys. Thank you so much for that story. Definitely an interesting conversation to be had, and something that I think is going to continue to kind of follow us around in California, especially. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. But up next, we have somebody who you might actually have to call if you get hit up by any of these guys. He's a multi-talented attorney that is also the founder of the Bi-Coastal Boutique Cannabis Law Firm with offices in California and New York. And he's also the NCIA director, a legal publisher, author of the Ganjier, and a purple belt in high-style Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, reserving his right to fuck you up at any time with his knowledge, weed, or hands, all of which who have been registered as weapons of moderate destruction. Omar, what do you have for us today?
Thank you, Nicole. Happy Freaky Friday, everyone. My story is from the North Bay Business Journal by Jeff Quackenbush. The headline is, Lighter Cannabis Harvest is Expected as Growers Await Price Recovery. California's outdoor cannabis harvest, nicknamed Croptober, is in full swing to beat the fall rains and frost. But what's weighing on the expected tonnage more than the seasonal weather and years-long drought is the economic climate for the fledgling legal industry. It looks like every farmer has taken advantage of the opportunity to go fallow, said Samuel Rodriguez of Good Farmers, Great Neighbors, a farming advocacy group whose members have substantial North Coast acreage. The scale of those cutbacks in production are ranging from 30% to half of previous levels to fully not harvesting, Rodriguez said. It was driven by the shock and awe of 2020-2021, the depression of the price per pound, he said. Estimates of pricing for outdoor growers vary, but it is ranging from $200 to $500 per pound, Rodriguez said. The average price in Sonoma County's inaugural report on the legal crop was $570 a pound last year, amounting to $121 million for the 212,000 pounds harvested from nearly 50 acres, all but 3 acres of that in outdoor grows. But supply and demand are stabilizing, so there will be a fair price, Rodriguez said. The U.S. wholesale spot market index, according to Cannabis Benchmarks, was $999 a pound as of October 21, down from $1,300 as recently as May, $1,384 a year ago, and $1,658 in October 2020. But the tracker of the legal trade nationwide noted that pricing for indoor-grown flower is holding $12.84 a pound, while pricing for greenhouse, hoop house, and fully outdoor flower has been faltering at $6.88 and $4.24 a pound, respectively. California and Oregon indoor product prices are moving higher on demand for what many connoisseurs will say is the best cannabis in the world, the company wrote in an October 21st research note. But what has impacted other cannabis businesses, from cultivators to distributors, is competition with the continuing, and some say increasing, illegal side of the industry, where operators are unlicensed, unregulated, and untaxed. Daniel Sumner, an agricultural economist at UC Davis, has been arguing that cannabis crop prices are too high, considering what is seen in other mature agricultural commodities, such as tomatoes. Long-term, as innovations in production reduce operating costs and boost production, prices and producer costs come down. But in recent years, North Coast cannabis advocates have been pursuing a premiumization of the industry, similar to what's been happening with the wine business. While average wine grape prices per ton may be below $1,000 across California, tonnage prices in premium growing regions such as Napa Valley and Sonoma County can be several $1,000s. Demand for indoor spaces to house cultivating, processing, testing, distribution, and retailing operations has plateaued in Sonoma County since the initial real estate boom in the year leading up to California adult recreational use legalization in 2018, according to Steven Skinner. He's a commercial real estate agent in Keegan and Coppin's Santa Rosa office who brokered a number of the purchase and lease deals for several 100,000 square feet of buildings in Santa Rosa, Cotati, and surrounding unincorporated areas. Anyone who is able to secure a location and able to get up and running and pay back investors has done so, Skinner said. We're starting to see a few deals with some turnover of some spaces that were not built out, partially built out, or fully built out. One such building Skinner is now marketing again is a 3,700 square foot Santa Rosa light industrial building where a producer of cannabis extracts and a maker of edibles try to get started. The latter was 707 Canna Kitchen, a commercial rental kitchen tailored toward makers of cannabis consumables, such as what would be produced by its affiliated business, Aces High Chocolates. It was a venture by notable vintner Paul Hine of PB Hine Vineyards in Napa Valley. A tenant improvement permit was applied for in 2019, and the final inspection was secured early last year, according to city records. Unfortunately, it ends up being a very sad story, his nephew Matt Graham told the Business Journal. As the kitchen was being finalized, Heinz health faltered. They tried to find a buyer for the business, but a lack of takers and plans by the building owner to sell the structure led to just winding down the business. My take are that these are tough times which challenge the mettle of everyone in the cannabis industry in California. Kudos to all industry players who keep on keeping on in these tough times. Tough times make tough people. The headline is lighter cannabis harvest is expected as growers await price recovery. This is Omar Figueroa, lawyer, publisher, Ganjier instructor, reporting from Sonoma County for High at 9, High Noon Eastern.
Thank you so much for that, Omar. That was a fantastic story.
I know we're short for time. We have to keep on rolling with this.
Yep, we're rolling.
All right. Sorry, Omar. We do have to keep on going. Do want to comment on yours, but up next and bringing us home today is the real industry OG doctor with a proven track record for years of serving up daily doses of compassion to the people. He's the founder of Medican and co-founder of CESC, a nonprofit cannabis research organization, and he's seriously doing some great work out there, people. So make sure you guys check him out. Dr. John Talleyrand, what do you have for us today? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Thanks, Rico. My story today is by Laura Hancock from Cleveland.com. Many Ohio doctors find medical cannabis is effective for cancer and pain, but fewer find it effective for sickle cell anemia. The Ohio Medical Marijuana Control Program published an annual report with results of physicians who recommend medical cannabis. 648. That's the number of Ohio physicians actively certified for the program. The program permits 25 medical conditions that qualify for cannabis treatment in Ohio. One of the key questions from the report asks physicians, how satisfied are you with the effectiveness of medical marijuana in treating your patients with one of the 25 qualifying conditions? The physicians were asked to rate each condition with satisfied, neutral, dissatisfied, other, and not applicable. The story puzzles me. Although the results of this study were overwhelmingly positive, for some reason, the story downplays the results. It identifies that 59.4% of physicians were satisfied with the effect of cannabis on chronic pain or intractable pain. 53.5 were satisfied for cancer patients. 50.8 were satisfied for fibromyalgia, and 50.3 for post-traumatic stress disorder. Actually, the results were much better. Only 65% of the doctors responded to the survey. If you calculate the percentage of respondents, 91% of the physicians who saw patients with pain were satisfied with the results. 82 for cancer, 77 for both fibromyalgia and PTSD. Out of the doctors seeing patients with sickle cell, 82% were satisfied with cannabis. Prior studies only indicate that 65% of patients are satisfied with traditional treatment for sickle cell, and 75% seek alternative treatments. For every condition in this study, physicians were more satisfied than dissatisfied with cannabis as treatment, even for less responsive conditions like Huntington's disease. Dr. Ryan Marino, Case Western University toxicologist and addiction medicine specialist, notes there is little evidence in the U.S. about the effectiveness of marijuana. When asked about the survey, he backtracks and qualifies his answer by saying, I think those conditions are anecdotally what people report success with, and adds, low dissatisfaction rates are likely due to marijuana's relative low risk. Dr. Salman Zara, president of Compassionate Cleveland, a medical cannabis practice, sees the survey's results as similar to his own experiences. He sees many chronic pain patients who prefer not to depend on opiates. He also sees PTSD patients who are less reluctant to enter therapy after they use cannabis. Rather than downplaying the results of this study, should be shouted from the mountaintop. It's promising that doctors of patients who used cannabis are satisfied with the results. However, the stigma of cannabis continues, in Ohio at least, to compete with real-world evidence. As a response, we must keep publishing survey results such as this. And as a follow-up, we should probably find out what the patients themselves think of using cannabis. This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand reporting for High at 9 News.
Any comments to help Dr. Jean on that one? I think we need to be all about the patients on this and all about bringing it back to medicine.
Without a doubt. Herbal medicine. We need to specialize in herbal medicine, not pharmaceutical medicine.
Agreed.
Yes. Bring it back to the plants.
Yes, indeed. And we are at the top of the hour. If we don't have any more comments on that story, just wanted to thank everybody out there for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us yet again. And you can always catch us on weekdays at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our audience and supporters tuning in daily to the live news feed of Chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Very special thanks to all of our haters out there. May you never find enough Pepto-Bismol or Imodium to stop the diarrhea flowing from out of your mouth about us. Thank you to True Classic, LAXCC, Weavers, and all of our sponsors and all of our industry correspondents tuning in from all over the globe to bring us much needed variety of perspectives and respected opinion to the headlines that we cover. Our production team over at 3 is 4 Media making us look and sound so good most of the time, and Jaja Simone over in Clubhouse holding it down. Thank you finally to Cannabis Sativa, my favorite marijuana mommy, and for just giving us a reason to be here every single day. I'm Rico Lamitte, dopest dad on the street, and you've all been tuned into High at 9 News. Go out and take this knowledge and debate it across the internet, and remember, you're no longer going to be censored on Twitter because Elon Musk is in charge. I love all you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Elon Musk taking over Twitter. It's going to be litty titty on the internet.
Have a great weekend, man. Love you guys.
Yes.
Thanks.
You are tuned in to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebs and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and enthogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck, Rico Lamitte, and Nicole West, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. Thank you for getting high at 9 with us.